Okay, go ahead with your question.
All right, so I know you said meters are not always to be trusted, but what I discovered made me like completely lose trust in all of them. So I don't know what to think. So I wanted to ask you. So I had a green wave meter. I know that's probably one of the less reliable, but it used to measure during the day, it'd be pretty high, and then at night it'd be lower. And I'm assuming that's because my neighbor has solar. And also when I would plug in my DNA filters, it would also go much lower. But with the Owen scope measuring peak voltage above 60 hertz, no matter what, day or night, or with my filters plugged in, the Owen reads the same. So, like, I was expecting that there'd at least be some correlation between the two ways of measuring. What do you make of that, and which do you think I should trust more?
Um, my personal opinion, picoscope, spectrum view.
Okay, and that'd be plugged into the hot.
Yeah.
So why do you? So with the Owen scope in the, I wasn't in the spectrum view, I was in the sine wave view. You wouldn't expect that the peak voltage to go down at all.
It may. I've seen all kinds of different things, and Terry can tell you, we've been to customers where the yellow waveform on the Owen scope was 10 volts. It's like, holy smokes. So there was some, I mean, it's a quick indicator to me whether there's really something seriously wrong, particularly a wiring unit. And that's kind of what it helps me to determine. So I don't rely on the yellow waveform other than looking at the thickness of the waveform, okay? And its overall peak-to-peak voltage. If it's less than half a volt peak-to-peak and the yellow line is not thick, then I know that we've got a shot at cleaning this up cheaply, or not have to require anything to fix it. But I like the oscilloscope because I can see the power waveform. I can get the peak voltage, peak to peak in real terms. I can see if there's unbalance between the power leads coming into the house. I can see some additional information on power that I cannot see on a picoscope. Okay, so I unfortunately use both. There's no one answer. Okay, so picoscope will work fine for most people without too much trouble. Just keep in mind the voltage reading you get on the picoscope is not the real voltage.
But I think he was saying that he gets two different results. One shows that it is still there, and the other one is the picoscope showed it disappears at night or reduces at night, and the one showed no difference.
Yeah, one you're looking at voltage, the other one you're looking at spectrum. Picoscope, you're looking at spectrum view versus the voltage view on the Owen scope. So.
Yeah, but you could also use a picoscope for O-scope purposes, not only look at.
You can, but I'm just telling you, you won't on main primary power. You won't get a true reading. On DE power, you will get a true reading. Okay, but on primary power, you won't get. So it's be careful when you present someone with a picoscope reading that you make it very clear that you're looking at the waveform for the power, not the actual voltage on the power, because you have to go scaling factors, which is very complicated. That's my only take on it. It's be careful because some of us go into people that they don't know, they're gardeners or they're knitters or whatever. They don't know anything about electricity. Or you go into home and you're working with an electrical engineer, right? So I do this all the time. They want to know what the real voltage is. They want to know what's going on here. They want to know the details. It's got to be actually accurate. And if you just show them the picoscope reading and there's your voltage, 1.6 volts peak to peak, they'll discard what you recommend if it's an engineering type person. So if there's an answer for you, I like to use both. If you're going to use the voltage readings on the picoscope, just make it clear that this is not the real voltage. There's something different because of the scaling, and that the waveform is what's most important, which is true. Okay, the shape of the waveform, is it distorted? Which means there's harmonics coming in from the grid.
Yeah, but Bill, is it fair to say that, okay, it's 0.75, it's 750 millivolts peak to peak, but you don't know where it starts and where it ends. It's just a relative 75 millivolt difference. Is that accurate?
Yeah, you're just measuring peak to peak, which is fine.
So it's 750 millivolts peak to peak, but we can't say what the actual voltage is. Is that what you're
Oh,
saying?
on the primary power or on the dirty electricity power?
On the waveform, when you're measuring the amplitude of the transients, and let's say the transients at 400.
Oh, you're talking about on the DE of channel B, whatever you try to call it.
Scope view, yeah, scope view,
Yeah, scope view or the spectrum view.
scope view,
Scope view.
yeah, peak to peak.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. It will be hard to say whether that's middle or you'll see the average, right?
Well, you'll see the difference between the bottom and the top, so peak to peak, but we don't really know what the actual, voltage is. We just know the difference, peak to peak. That's what I'm saying. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
And when you say there's a wiring error, is that something like that a ground loop would cause and that you should expect to see that go down after you fix that?
Yes.
Okay, mine is at 5 volts, so there's definitely something like that, right?
Yeah, either that or the setup for your scope wrong.
Okay. All right, thanks, Bill.
Make sure your probe is set for 10x. And your scope is set for 1x on the dirty electricity side.
Oh, so wait. I thought both probes are supposed to be 10x.
No. Well, both probes are 10x on the slider, okay, that you connect up to the probe tip, right? There's a little slider on there.
Like the physical thing, right?
Yeah, the physical thing. And then in the
Okay.
scope, it's 10x setting for channel A. Okay, the red channel on the old scope, and on the yellow channel is ×1.
Oh,
Then you'll get the right answer.
is it by default? If you just do auto set, are they going to be on 10x or on 1x?
I think, I don't know. I don't have to go back and look. I think it's 1x on. If you do auto set, it'll, I think, shift to 1x on the scope itself. I think.
Okay. Would you mind explaining what that means, 1x versus 10x?
Well, it's the multiplier of the input voltage. So is this voltage ×10 or ×1? So I don't know. I'll have to do some further investigation. This was kind of a hands-on scope thing we need to do. If you want to do this later on, we can do that.
Yeah, so you just verified again that we need a procedural protocol.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not, if I was in front of the scope and I can do it, I can just figure out real live for you, but I'm not sitting in front of the scope at this very moment. And I'm not going to move over there. We're trying to answer questions by the end of the day here.
Bill, can you tell us again what we would see on, for example, the O1 with wiring errors in-house? What are the tip-offs?
Tip-offs are that the dirty electricity voltage is higher than ½ volt. Dead ring.
Can you repeat that?
If on the one scope, if you hook up the yellow probe to the yellow connector, the yellow channel. I'm using colors. I'm sorry. Channel
Yeah.
channel 2. And so if that voltage is more than ½ volt, there's likely a wiring problem. Someone has crossed neutrals and grounds and other weird things that they've miswired the neutral to ground bonds, or there's multiple neutral to ground bonds. That's just typically what happens. Or if it's a ground loop, you'll get fluctuating voltages on the yellow channel. I've seen everything. I've seen all kinds of weird things. But if it's a thin caterpillar and it's less than ½ volt, you're probably not bad shape. It doesn't mean there isn't some potential crossing of the neutrals to grounds, but whatever reason when you're measuring it, there isn't a exerting influence on that circuit at that point in time when you measured.
And you're talking the peak to peak voltage, right?
Yeah.
Like under 500 millivolts is what we want. Okay.
Yep. You know, unfortunately, we could spend 10 days straight testing DE stuff. Okay. 10 days straight, we could do this. Okay. And we've done a lot already today. Is there anything anybody has some questions on what we showed or we didn't show it, that you would like to see it, etc.? If that's the case, we could pick that up tomorrow. We've got some slack time tomorrow. Okay, so I'm going to go into spectrum analyzers and we'll test some grounding paints. We're going to do some of that stuff. That doesn't take that long to do. Okay, so what's on the agenda for tomorrow? You know, we got. Let's say we're going to do a check to see. You know, the blue box test. You know, that won't take long. You know, we'll do all that stuff. But so we have extra time tomorrow if we have to do something else. Go ahead, Doug.
Do you have a way to produce a Bodie plot with a PICO or the OM?
A Bodie plot?
Yeah, for example, if you have an external power supply. I've got one I just got for $350. My engineer really liked.
You're breaking up. You're kind of fuzzy. I can't hear you very clearly.
Yeah,
I have an external power supply, a Siglet power supply. It
Oh,
costs,
okay.
it's 30 megahertz. It cost $350, and my engineer really liked it. But anyway, so it can do a sweep, a frequency sweep, and PICO built-in power supply can also do a frequency sweep. So you know, if you want to sweep from 1 kilohertz to 10 kilohertz or 100 kilohertz, you can do it. So I'm just wondering if there's any way to use the PICO or the OLAN to produce a Bodie plot to give us the overall profile of the effectiveness of any passive filter.
Yeah. So I don't use those. I use spectrum analyzer to do that.
Yeah.
If I want a Bodie plot, I do a spectrum analyzer view. I don't use a picoscope for that. You can't use it. You have to use, if you're going to do filter design, you have to know the cutoff frequency and you have to be able to emulate that by driving it. And I only use this, and I used to build filters. So, you know, cutoff filters, high pass filters, low pass filters, all kinds of different filter designs. And when I get my lab running here in the next month or two, I'll be able to do a little bit more of that. But I have the ability within my lab to do a Bodie plot.
Yeah, so you have a dedicated spectrum analyzer. Not
Oh yeah, I've got 3 of them.
Okay.
I've got one that goes down to, I think, 10 hertz. From 10 hertz to 150 megahertz.
Wow.
That's what you need. If you're going to do
Okay.
filter design, you need something that can go that low. If you're going to do any kind of major circuit board design stuff. And then I have one, unfortunately, all the new, someone's got a speaker on somewhere. Someone got a microphone on? No. Okay, sorry. So if you're going to do any filter design, current brand spectrum analyzers start at 9 kilohertz. That is worthless to do a filter design, right? If you've ever done any filter design, you just know the whole cutoff frequency from about 500 hertz up, you know, and above that. If the spectrum analyzer starts at 9 kilohertz, it's a worthless device. So I have an old Hewlett Packard. In fact, it was one of my products I kind of helped with when I worked at Hewlett Packard. I was working for Agilent Corporation, which is the division of HP, the HV Instruments division, back a long time ago, before they got sold to whoever they got sold to, I forget. So I have a very good condition, fully calibrated 10 hertz to 150 megahertz spectrum analyzer with all the tools. It works beautifully. Fully calibrated. It's my go-to device. But if you want to buy one today, good luck, because you won't find them.
Right, but we're not trying to design filters, so.
No, you're not. No, I know that.
Bill, can I ask, we spend a lot of time trying to remove spurious harmonics. Do you know of a way we can put spurious harmonics onto wires for some more methodical testing?
Yes, I have all the tools to do that here in the lab.
How would I be able to do that with not a great deal of money? I mean, a signal
Uh,
generator or
You need a signal
something
generator.
inductive?
You need a signal generator. No question about it. You have to have a signal generator. Now, on the PICO scope, there is an arbitrary waveform generator in there.
Mhm.
Learn how to use that. It will help you in some respects.
Okay.
The problem with the PICO scope is that you can't put a lot of amplitude up.
Hmm.
Okay, you can't put a lot of voltage up. So, but I think in the space of what we do, which is in the millivolts range, right? You probably can do it.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
I do have a device I want to share with people if I can. Hold on. See this thing. Where's the other one? There's another one with little cables. Here we go. You need help? Okay, don't hook that up. Just physically bring it over. Okay, so for field work, I have a device like this called a PICO log. Can you see that?
What's it do?
Well, you can put this on to test low voltage AC signals and all kinds of DC signals, and it will keep a log as long as you want to keep this thing running of all the variabilities that you see. So I have this hooked up to look to see if I want to measure DE over a 48-hour period. I have a way to do that with this PICO log, and it will actually produce me a report on PICO log software. Pretty
Yeah, but what is it hooked up to? Is it self-contained?
totally self-contained. You hook it up to a USB port to your PC. Okay.
Okay.
And I put my PC on a inline 20 amp DNA inline filter. So run my PC power supply. So I keep the PC running because the PC battery will die, right? After a certain amount of time. So you have to be able to keep this powered and be able to collect the data. So there's the little jumper board you can hook your wires into.
So what's it receiving? What's it sensing?
It's sensing voltages.
In the air?
Voltages on the wire. So you can,
Which wire?
what's that?
Which wire?
If you want to hook it up to like
Socket?
if you want to hook it up to the output of the Stetzer filter, the Stetzer high ubiquitous filter, the actual dirty electricity outlet of that, which is low voltage, which will fit in this just beautifully.
I see. Okay.
Now you can make a 24-hour log or more of all the range of DE. So if you have like, I don't know, at 2 in the morning, I feel terrible, okay, what's going on at 2 in the morning? So you can't sit there till 2 in the morning, you go blind, right? So I put one of these devices in and hook it up to the PICO scope and to the PICO log, and then the ubiquitous filter. And so I can then see what the voltages are up and down, up and down, up and down, see if there's any variability over a long window, okay?
Do you have a diagram of that setup?
You can go look on PICO software setup. So this is the PICO log 102, 10, 12.
So where's the 110? Where's the live line hookup on this thing?
In this board here. There's
Oh,
certain
okay.
pins which are for AC and certain pins for DC.
I see.
Okay.
Okay.
but it does, the output of this, the Stetzer ubiquitous filter, output voltage of the DE side, okay, I call it the yellow side. Okay, we'll go into this no problem, would not require any additional attenuation. Okay.
Do you get useful looking reports or graphs or tables?
Yeah, yeah, I do, and so it's rare that I do it, but I have used it 3 times last year, and it was the only way to figure out whether there was something flaky going on at the house or was it the grid. You know, it's a very challenging client. Okay, a couple clients anyway. So that's that device. Then this device is way cool. Okay, so I've got this PICO CM3 current date. It's a current logger. See that?
Yeah.
There's the model number. See it?
MAC, is that what it is?
Okay.
Okay.
So it measures current.
Yeah. So it comes with some clamps, current clamps. See these? Just put that around the power lines in your panel. This is available for 3-phase power if you want. Okay. So you can measure currents. I'm working with a farm right now. They're getting overcharged for the electricity, and so we're going to go out next month and hook this up to the farm, and we're going to record for 3 days straight and see how much current is being consumed and do a power consumption calculation. And then go back to the utility company and say, you're lying to us, please. So that'll be the first time I actually try this. I'm interested to see how this works out. But you can make a log run 24 hours a day. I mean, see how much current's being consumed over a 24-hour period, 40-hour period, we're going to do it for 72 hours because 3 days is a long time. And then the utility company gives a report based on, because they got a smart meter there, tells them how much consumption per day that they consume. And we're gonna see whether their report versus this report matches or not.
Oh yeah, I'd like to hear the update on that one.
Well, there's a lawsuit involved. Okay, so.
Oh, okay, but it's like you showed in your little diagram years ago, is how long they figure the inrush current. That's the variable, right?
Yeah, so I'll be able to log all that data.
So they can just rig it. Well, we think it's going to be full inrush current for 5 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever they think. And they can really jimmy around with your bill.
Yeah, so we're going to call bullshit on the electric bill. This is a huge dairy farm operation. There's 5 dairy farms involved here in this business.
Wow.
So it's a big deal. It's in Wisconsin. I can't tell you where, but they sent them a bill for $30,000 for one farm. And they go, $30,000, our bill in the last decade hasn't been higher than a $1,500 bill. What is going on? Well, sorry, our meters are right. You owe us $30,000. So, they went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Somehow somebody got a hold of me, said, hey, can you help us figure out what's really going on? I says, well, I can figure out what's going on from a measurement standpoint. Now, can I tell you what, the utility company is doing with the data? I don't know, but I can tell you the real data over whatever window you want to measure it. And then you can say, I challenge your accuracy of your information, Mr. Utility, because I have this information which basically disputes what your findings are. Okay.
Great.
So I'm gonna have a lot of fun with that next month. Should be an exciting day, actually exciting week. I'm going there for a week. So we're gonna pick the worst farm that they're getting their bills from. All the bills are up. All the bills are up. Okay. So to go from $1,500 a month to $30,000 a month with no change. In fact, that particular farm, they cut their herd in half and their bill went up.
So did they hot flash the, I assume they all have smart meters, is that correct?
Yeah, they all have smart meters now. They didn't have them before, but they have them now.
Did they do any recent over-the-air hot flashing of the firmware or software or? any of
Oh,
that?
you think the utility is gonna tell you what they've been monkeying with? No,
Well-
no. Eric, you've been in these meetings with these idiots.
Well, one time at the SMUD board, this guy came in, he owned the Sacramento racetrack. And he
Oh.
says, thank you, we like your electricity and we use it for turning our parking lot lights on and off. And this one meter, all it does is turn lights on and off. It's been the same scheduled week after month, after year, after decade. Suddenly our bills have tripled and the time clocks are still set the way they've been for the last 10 years. So it seems to be that your meter has got a problem.
Oh, no, our
And-
meter is 100% accurate. It's totally calibrated, blah, blah, blah.
Well, it was just very obvious that there was no other reason other than the meter was haywire. So now we have 3 meters on our property. 2 of them are normal, but this one's 3 times higher. So, yeah, well, maybe they didn't admit anything. They said, we'll look into it. That's all they said at the meeting.
Yeah, they're not gonna say nothing until they get caught cold. That's exactly, you've been with these idiots, you know, until you catch them cold lying in front of others, in front of a judge, then they
Right. Then they back off.
then they back off. Then oh, so anyway, so they know I'm coming. I've got a phone call with the attorneys on the whole thing next Tuesday. We're gonna figure out, do we execute this plan or not? Because right now the utility, after they got sniffing around and like what we're planning to do to challenge them and how the instrumentation is gonna be. You know, someone's coming out with instruments to check this all stuff, and that's when they started backing this up. Co-op, by the way. So they don't have any engineers on staff. None. Okay, but they believe the bill is correct. Okay, now no engineers.
So what are they gonna do just because they know you're looking into it? What does that mean? they're
Well,
gonna
they
do?
suddenly I think on Tuesday, they called me, the owner of the farm called me Tuesday night. Said, hey, these guys want to negotiate.
Oh, really?
After 2 years of stonewalling. It's disgusting. Some of these people are so disgusting, pack of liars. I hate liars. That's all I can tell you. It rubs me raw when I know people are lying and I catch them lying and they still deny it. So that's what gets my dander up and makes me go after them even harder. But we'll see what happens. I'll know Tuesday whether they're, you know, what the negotiations are all about, because as you know, right? Any lawsuit costs money, right? And the longer the lawsuit, the more money. So farmer doesn't want to spend his whole entire fortune on fighting with the lawyers.
Yeah, well, I'd like to know about that, so keep us up to date.
Yeah, I'll let you guys know what happens, but without this kind of instruments, you really haven't got a prayer. Without this stuff, I mean, and so, you know, pardon me, I'm a little bit of a geek, as you probably know. I like to know their answers and really, what is this true or not true? And I'm like, you know, I've made mistakes and I thought something was true, and I said, holy smokes, I was totally wrong on this. And then I have to change everything.
So let me ask you this, Bill. So you got this PICO current logger. It looks like it's a 3-phase unit. Can they say, oh, well, that's a toy. You need something made by Drance or, you know, some other.
No, it's totally calibrated. I got calibration sheets with it.
So how much did that PICO logger cost for?
I forget. It wasn't cheap. I don't remember. Look it up yourself. PICO log CM3.
It's about $575.
Bill, there's one on Newark with 3 clamps.
Yeah.
So it's obviously 3-phase. It's $579.
It won $100.
Bill, do you have any opinion if that's intentional corruption or is there some amount of honest mistake
I
in
think
there?
they're just stupid. They believe what the meter company tells them, and that's all they're doing.
If I have a smart meter, am I probably getting ripped off and I should measure it?
They try to rip me off all the time, and I catch them at it, and I report it back to them, and they adjust my bill.
Oh, so you think it's probably worth it for anyone to be measuring it and comparing?
Well, I don't know. No, give me a second. Give me just 1 second. Hold on.
Well, anywhere you don't have transparency, you will have corruption. They go hand in hand. And because these meters are completely hidden from view, what they do and how they're implemented, it's all shenanigans, right? It just is ripe for corruption, whether they intend to or not. Nobody to catch them.
Okay, you can see my setup here. So here's the under the ground. This runs to the pole underground. From the pole underground to this smart meter that's actually a digital meter. And then to a conduit over to a disconnect. And this is my neutral to ground bond right here. And then that runs to an analog meter. The analog meter has a full calibration sheet on it. And then that runs into the house. Okay. So this is in series with this device. So I go out every month at the same day and measure what this says and what this says. And following month, I go out and do another reading and compare this number to this number. If I find a discrepancy, I let the utility company know. They know who I am. They know this meter is calibrated. Okay, and I'm a bit of a troublemaker for DT, so
So
they don't
what happened?
they don't like me very much, but they don't want to go in court against me. So
Did you win, hey man, you owe me 1,000 kilowatts hours, or what did you
so
find out?
on an average, every quarter, there's typically, because I pay $10 a month to have this read, okay? And on a quarterly basis, I get about $40 back because I find this does not agree with that.
So their $40, their meter is happy to the tune of about $10 a month.
Well, they're charging me $10 a month to read it. I catch them every quarter with about $40 overbilling, and then they adjust my bill, reducing it by $40. The meter reading, basically, I make $10. Now, that's not a lot of money, right? Do I do this because I'm really worried about $10? No, I like it just like a stick to it. Okay, so
have you found in any particular months they really tried to gouge?
well, see, we don't burn a lot of power here in this house. Now, if I was, doing a lot of power, and maybe it'd be higher, but that's kind of my take on it so far, is about $40 a quarter. It's off. About, okay. By the time you do the kilowatt hours and the taxes and all the other fees, all that monkey business, your bill is full of all kinds of riders of cost, right? So.
Have you set up this kind of monitoring system for other people that are having power problems and power billing problems?
I have not done this particular system, no, but I have told customers they should do it. And then they all go look like, well, that costs more money. Yes. If I told you could make $40 a quarter off of it, would you do it? Well, I don't know. And it's like, okay, fine. You're not interested.
How did you get the calibrated analog meter installed?
It's very easy. It was very easy. You can buy these meters from, I forget the name of the company on Florida, Hialeah Meter Company, and just say, I want a meter and I want it fully calibrated and zeroed out. And I want photographs of the zeroed out. I'm going to, before you ship it, I'll take photographs of when I get it. I want the full calibration sheet that comes with it. I made a file of it and I sent it to the utility company. Say, this is the meter I'm using to compare my readings to your readings, just to let you know in advance. So they all know about it.
How much did it cost for the meter socket box? And
come on, these boxes cost $110. The meter's $55, something like that. But this
like a good option for the farmers. The farmers that you mentioned, that looks like a good option.
We'll see. Okay. Farmers have got a lot of things to do. A lot of dairy cows. Okay. Dairy cows are very expensive. If you didn't know that. Okay. They're very expensive animals. So do you have time to putz with $40 or to a, $10,000 cow? I don't know. It'd be $10,000 cow if it was big. Okay. So, but this whole rack, okay, and the configuration installation cost me $5,000.
Whoa. But it was probably a business deductible expense, I would assume.
Yes.
Bill, do you mind if I ask your average monthly bill, just so I can tell like the percentage that these smart meters are off?
It's between 180 to 220 a month.
Okay.
Somewhere in that range.
So Bill, what do you do in areas with time of use billing?
Well,
Because the analog meter is just assuming 24/7 same rate, right?
yeah, so because this is an opt-out meter,
Mhm.
they can't do time of use billing to me.
Ah.
That's the secret. Now, if they want to do if they require me to have time of use billing, then I will put this other device I showed you on the power system and I'll monitor it 7x24. And I'll see what they show as, my consumption by hour, and I can compare what my meter says by hour, and I can challenge it. But the way out of it is to not let them control your power by getting an opt-out meter. If you have an opt-out meter, they can't do time of day pricing. Now, if you can't opt out, then you're screwed, right? Here in Michigan, if they call what they call an emergency period, like temperature is 150 degrees per day for, blah, 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 number of days, they can declare some type of urgent event and your electric rate increases if you're on time of usage to $1 per kilowatt hour.
Ouch.
Ouch is right, and they're doing it to every customer. They making money hand over fist.
Are they doing this in every state, and how long have they been doing this?
I don't know about other states. All I know is Michigan.
Well, okay. Well, I know just the last few weeks, my landlord's been texting me like, low power time, keep off AC from 2 to 5
He's
p.m.
probably got a time of use rate.
Yeah.
Won't guarantee it.
Do you know at $1 a kilowatt hour, is it cheaper to just produce electricity with a generator?
I don't know the number, but if I'm not mistaken, it's right around 25, 30 cents a kilowatt hour.
Wow, okay.
If that's the case, it gets up to that high, get your own generator and tell the utility company, please disconnect the meter. Have a nice day.
What does the utility company usually charge per kilowatt hour?
Yeah, charge you per kilowatt hour plus all the other fees.
No, how much is it normally?
I'm paying 14.5 cents per kilowatt hour, flat rate.
Okay.
So when I moved here, it was 8.5 cents. When I moved back in 2015.
Wow, okay.
But don't you know, if we put in a solar farm, we can save the whales, and we can save the ducks and the geese, and we can save global warming, and we can save the water rising and all this kind of monkey business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Bill, your O1 battery, are you happy with it, or do you have some other option?
I'm happy with it. I mean, I don't run the scope more than an hour a day. I mean, if it's at a client, I don't run it all day long when I'm there. But an hour a day is more than adequate to do the testing I need to do.
Good, thank you.
I do have a backup battery in the event things go out of control. So I keep that charging in the bag. I use a Pelican case. I forget the number of it. What's it called? It's here somewhere.
Right here.
Pelican Air travel case. It's got little sponge things you take out, and it's got a ability to have little pockets in the top of the lid.
Do you know which model number of the Pelican? I was looking for one and I wasn't sure which to buy.
Model 1835.
15.
Thank you.
I apologize. 151535. Sorry. And you can get a special compartment lid, so to speak. It's got little zippers and places you can put the cables, and I use that all the time. So I put all the probe tips and the USB cables and any other cables all up on the top lid. And those things just go on with some screws, and no big deal. And so that way you don't lose stuff and you don't have bags of stuff laying around. It's very convenient. So I put the scopes, all the scope, so I have one bag called oscilloscopes, and so it's got the picoscope and the on scope and all the probe tips and all the stuff I need, the ubiquitous filter, the whole show, all in that box. And heaven forbid I ever want to get on an airplane again, which I don't think I'll do. But if I had to get on an airplane, I could put it in the overhead compartment of the airplane bag, or the airplane rack. Does physically fit there. Though based on the rules today, I'm not flying ever again.
Bill?
Yep.
Sometimes we encounter a house divided with clients where one person wants to make a lot of changes and the other resists. And let's say they do have a DE issue. They have a lot of dimmers. They have some variable speed motors, moderate electronic use. What kind of improvements do you think we would see with doing things like you already talked about, improving the ground, cleaning up the panel, like Andrew said, separating neutrals, grounds, all that stuff?
Usually
Still be able to
the number one
benefit-
thing people seem to respond to is I sleep a lot better. I feel rested. I don't feel this pressure on me. Okay. Pardon, we got a pontoon boat going by it down by the river there. Sorry. So people partying. Anyway, so most of the time when I remediate a home, I check back a few days later to see how things are going, and I get those kind of reactions. I sleep a lot better. I haven't slept this well in years, you know, and those kind of reactions. I get common reactions, you know, like this pressure has been lifted from me. I feel less stressed, and I have an interesting thing I'll share with people. Hold on a minute.
And you get that reaction without even them changing any way that they're living, the dimmers or anything?
No, that stuff's got to go.
Okay,
All those changes have to be made.
okay.
I mean, when I show them the scope view and all this stuff, and I explain to them what this is doing to you from a body voltage standpoint and what that it means to them, they're like, well, maybe there's something to this. And then they kind of, then the husband-wife thing goes on, right? You know what that is.
Yes, the husband-wife thing, yep.
Husband-wife discussion. So, but let me bring up, hold on a minute. Give me a second. There's a letter I got from a client of mine. Let me share it. I don't put too many things from my clients online because, you know, this is from a lady named Camel Wilson, lives in Oregon. This was in June. Read this letter. Wow, wow, wow. That's all I can say after having both DNA filters running in the house in conjunction with, of course, the slide tamer, which we've had for a couple of months now. We're still working on fixing the electrical, separating our main and service that's going to blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff I told them to do, which should happen on Sunday, plus the whole other issues which I identified. But just in a few days of having both the RX DNA filters plugged in, we can already know a substantial difference in how our younger kids are behaving themselves. It's fantastic. We used to have significant anger, obsessiveness, stubbornness, and interpersonal issues with our 9 and 5-year-old girls. They're playing so much more calmly and creatively now. Our baby is calmer too, and playing much more happily by himself rather than just obsessing about pulling things off our desk. What a wonderful thing. We wish we bought these months ago. The significant time we spent trying to redirect angry, stubborn, and impressed minds of our children has been almost pointless compared to installing a couple simple electrical filters.
What's interesting is they're going to keep going.
Yeah.
With the service disconnect and all that.
Yeah, and I think all kinds of other recommendations, and they'll all get better from there. But
Is the purpose of the service disconnect so you can also disconnect your neutral?
no, not disconnect neutral. You change the bond out to the service disconnect, and that EMF characteristic, and Andrew can speak more about this himself. but you're basically moving the EMF characteristics of the neutral and grounds from inside the house to outside the house.
Okay.
Andrew, is that correct?
Absolutely, and so many more things. You can get control over the current flows and the lower electric fields and magnetic fields because you're going to reduce loops. It brings up all the issues so you can finally address them.
And is that one of the more difficult things to convince an electrician to do?
No, electricians respond to money.
Okay. But
My only
that also
advice
lets
for
you cut the neutral.
Just don't say EMF or magnetic fields with electricians and you'll be fine.
How do you explain why you want to do it then?
You don't need to explain. You say this is per code and this is what the client needs this. Will you do it?
Okay.
Yeah, avoid intellectual arguments with electricians.
I try to avoid those with everyone.
Yeah, so.
Ken Gardner has a question on the 10X Pro and 1X Pro.
Go ahead, Ken, ask your question, please. Ken?
Ken, you're muted in case you don't know.
He might have stepped away. Sharon, is it about the probe? Oh, there he is.
But which question? There are a lot of questions.
Your 10X probe.
Oh, okay. No, that was just, so Bill said, even though the hardware on the probe was 10X, remember, don't change the O1 to say 10X, and that just broke my brain, and I don't, it hasn't been fixed yet. So I'll just leave that hanging. Bill was very confident in it, and I just don't understand it.
Okay. All right, so we'll wrap it up. We'll take one more question.
Bill, Dan here. How do you physically get a 1-aught wire through a raceway, or you have to just drill a hole in the side of the house, or if the disconnect is away from the house, how would you do that?
Yeah, it's pretty simple to drill a hole that size. It's not that big a diameter.
So it can be ran without a conduit, just in the ground.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, one other thing, Bill, if we're going to increase the size of the grounding electrode conductor, is it better to get the heavily stranded wire or the fine mesh flat ribbon type wire?
Well, I'm very frank, I'm not that familiar with the flat ribbon wire.
I've seen it. That's all I've seen.
I've not seen it, and I've not used it.
Okay.
Maybe it's pretty commonly, I look for what's commonly available locally with the electrician supply. I mean.
Okay, so you're just going for the coarse stranded wire. Is what you go for. Okay.
Yep. Because it's readily available. I mean, it's not, you're not breaking the brains of some electrician say, this is a special wire I want, So here's what I want, 1-aught twist, 1-aught braided wire. That's coated. It's basically jacketed. We call it jacketed, not shielded, jacketed.
Stranded is the word.
Stranded is the word. Okay, if that's all there is, so we're going to close up, and we'll try to get the audios, the videos and the chat from yesterday up tonight. So look for that email. It will come in your, sometime later tonight or first thing in the morning. So we'll have that available.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Hope you all found today interesting.
Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
Great call. Thanks, Bill.
All right.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.